Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Welcome to the Westchester County Courthouse, where we're here to celebrate a terrific bit of news for Westchester residents, and that is the fact that the New York State Office of Victim Services has granted Westchester County and some of our not-for-profit partners 3 years of funding to continue to provide services at our Family Justice Center. And that is a terrific bit of news. We're going to have different speakers talk to you about what the program does, how it fits into the issues that we deal with in domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Month, and when we have these months, they're meant to serve as an opportunity to remind ourselves what. On a very different issue, I'm wearing a pink tie today, not because I know how to dress very well, but because this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We talked about that at a press conference yesterday, and so we're trying to remind ourselves as a society that there are certain important things that affect us and affect many of our brothers and sisters in the community. We're going to hear in a few minutes from the Director of Office for Women here in Westchester County, Robbie Schlaff, Judge Kathie Davidson, who is the administrative judge for the 9th Judicial District, and she has responsibility for the 5 county regions of the judiciary here under the direction of Janice DeFiore, who heads the overall OCA. Second Deputy DA Fredric Green is with us here. He's Chief of Special Prosecutions, works in DA Anthony Scarpino's team. Elizabeth Cronin, who's the New York State Director of the OVS, and we're very grateful to her and her role, very grateful to Governor Cuomo and his leadership in being able to provide these resources. Michelle Walker, who's Director of our Family Justice Center here, and Carla Horton, who's Executive Director of Hope's Door, and one of the many not-for-profit groups that we partner with in order to make all this happen. What we're celebrating, in a very specific way, is the granting of resources for 2019 to 2022 to continue to operate the Family Justice Center. The Family Justice Center originally opened its doors in 2010, but had to close for lack of resources by the end of 2017. We received a 1-year grant that allowed us to reopen in December of 2018, but now this is a welcome news because it allows for us to continue to provide these services over an extended period of time, and obviously we will do everything we have to do to try to maintain this service. It is difficult for people who don't interact with the issue directly to understand what happens to a person, generally a woman, who is a victim of domestic violence, and what happens as relates to the court system, which has very structured ways of operating, and what happens in the world of services that could be provided for her and her family to help her get through this very difficult moment. Sometimes it's difficult for us to understand that there has to be a public allocation of resources to make these things happen, because if they don't happen, out there in the world, there's no private sector structure to provide these services profitably, and then the person goes without them. And this is how families get hurt, this is how individuals get hurt, and then you're back in this courthouse, not to try to prevent something from happening, but dealing with the aftermath of something happening. Because not only do we have family courts here to try to help make right what's possible, we also have criminal courts to deal with when criminality occurs. And it occurs in this society. And we wish it didn't, but it does. And so we have an obligation, I believe, those of us in general government responsibilities, to work with our court system and our not-for-profit partners. And we're very fortunate to have a terrific partner in the state of New York. Again, Governor Cuomo, the legislature, Andre Stewart-Cousins, who heads the state Senate, who's a partner of ours, to help make money and resources available. But many times, as I humorously alluded to this, in many of these announcements, I sit like the astronaut in a capsule. I'm not the guy that planned the mission control. I didn't build the rocket ship. I didn't chart out how we were going to circumvent the globe. I'm just the guy that stands up there at the end of the flight and puts my hands out, and I'm alive in the South Pacific, and we circle the Earth. The people who are about to speak are the people who are the architects of the idea, they're the implementers of the idea, they're the funders of the idea, and those are the people that deserve credit for these services and for how many women and families in general that it helps. So let me begin with our director of our Office for Women. She has worked under other county administrations, and we're very happy that she's agreed to stay on with us in our administration. Robbie Schlaff.
Thank you. And thank you for being so modest, because without your commitment to eradicating domestic violence in Westchester County, we wouldn't be here either. So thank you, George, really. I want to thank Chief Judge Kathie Davidson for always being there for the most vulnerable among us. I want to thank you, Director Elizabeth Cronin, for recognizing the value of the Family Justice Center. And thank you to my colleagues in Westchester County government that support our efforts. I'm the director of the Westchester County Office for Women, and my allergies are terrible, so I'm sorry that I'm so hoarse. So we coordinate the county's efforts on gender violence, including oversight of the Family Justice Center. So we provide direct services as well as helping all kinds of folks with issues other than gender violence: housing, immigration, help with public assistance, referrals for legal services, and a lot of other issues. We call ourselves the Office of Last Resort because sometimes we're the last place called after people don't get help elsewhere. We are overjoyed that the Family Justice Center is back up and running. Thank you to all of you. We're so fortunate in Westchester to have this group, who is right behind me, of compassionate, committed, caring providers that work together to help keep families safe. These are our partners. We're the ones who speak for the survivors. As the county executive said, no one is immune from domestic violence. Victims come from every race, ethnicity, religion, gender, and socioeconomic status. We listen to their stories of brutality, emotional and psychological abuse, and their suffering from every corner of the county. And here at the Family Justice Center, survivors' voices are heard, and we work together to improve lives. As the county executive said, the Family Justice Center is a collaboration among dozens of partners who are dedicated to helping victims. It embodies the commitment of Westchester County government and the many partners working together to prevent and protect families from family violence. When we work together, great things can happen. And we have a lot of the partners here, and we also have Michelle Walker, who is here, who is the best person that can run this center. She will speak to you in a minute. And I think I have Judge Davidson to introduce next, who is my friend, colleague, partner for 30 years.
Good morning. This is truly a great day. I want to thank the county executive, but I want to say a special thank you to Robbie Schlott, because we know that important issues like the issue that we're here for today, domestic violence, requires a leader. And she has that leadership, the passion. And as you heard about the ups and downs, you have to have someone who understands that if I don't stay, and if I don't stay tall, and if I don't stay on this, it's not going to happen. So it's her force, her power, the profound representation of the stakeholders who tells us that what this means to all of us and to the community of Westchester. And as speaking as a family court judge for over 15 years, I can tell you that I can issue that order of protection. I can put everything in that order of protection, and I think will keep that, usually, as you said, that litigant protected and the family and their belongings. But I know what makes a success, and what makes a success is what's happening in the community. That are there services? Because needless to say, they're going to say, I'm about to lose my housing. I'm about to not be able to go to work anymore. I don't have the funding source. So I know what happens in the community, that lifeline into the community, such as the services that will be at this center, will make all the difference in turning around the lives of those litigants that come before me and all the other judges here in the county. So I want to personally thank everyone for the stick-to-itness, that we know this is a great day, this is a good day, and we're being showered with blessings of rain. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to say that Judge Davidson is showing in her leadership in this particular role, this judicial role, which is the rough equivalent of what a county executive is in the executive branch, what a chair of the board is in the legislative branch. Her 5-county region is a complicated area, but she reached this point because she not only showed the scholarship necessary through her law school career, but then also her career as an attorney in practice, and then through her years as a family court judge, and then having the responsibility for administration of the family courts, which I think many of us, when we discuss what the different level of courts do, the family courts require perhaps the greatest amount of understanding of how human beings live and work, because you are dealing within a court structure with the rules of the judiciary and of law, but you also have to have an understanding of the human heart and how people function. And Kathie has proven that, and to have a leader of this jurisdiction who has those skills to go along with judicial temperament is really exceptional. So Kathie, we thank you very much for your leadership. Next, Second Deputy DA Fredric Green is going to speak. He's the Chief of Special Prosecutions in the Office of the DA. If you watch Law and Order, SVU, you will see them when they begin, before they do the first dunk-dunk, they talk about the two branches that apprehend and then prosecute lawbreakers. And even in a Hollywoodized version of what happens, what Fred does here in Westchester County is complicated, and it involves, as much as the judiciary does, understanding what are the law, how do you go about prosecuting in this area, this technical area. He leads a group of prosecutors in the DA's office in this area of sex crimes. He understands it so well that he has taught in Pace Law School and other places, so we're very fortunate that he's on DA Anthony Scarpino's team, and he's with us here today to describe the prosecutorial piece and how it fits in. Fred?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm appreciative to the county executive for those kind words, and really honored to be here amongst all of these amazing professionals. Every one of them inspires me every day. Every one of them has worked together with our office, and it's really just an honor to be with all of them today. On behalf of District Attorney Anthony Scarpino, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, I'm really proud to be here and to stand up for the domestic violence prosecutors and all the support staff in our office who work on domestic violence cases every day, and to say congratulations to the Family Justice Center on this funding, and much appreciation to Elizabeth and the Office for Victim Services under her leadership in funding such an amazing and important program in Westchester. Maybe she wouldn't want me to say, but you know, Elizabeth and I were working side by side as domestic violence prosecutors. We calculated earlier this morning, more than 20 years ago. In a lot of ways, I was learning from Elizabeth, and it's so amazing, and it's so gratifying for somebody like me who's still here prosecuting cases for 32 years, that Elizabeth has kept her foundations in special victims work. She was an amazing special victims prosecutor. She did a lot in the DA's office, and she's carried that through into her current mission. So thank you to OVS under Elizabeth's leadership for funding this great program. You're welcome. So sadly, in the District Attorney's Office, we're still prosecuting between 2,000 and 3,000 cases of domestic violence in Westchester County every year. We have a very dedicated team of professionals who do it, and I'm very pleased, though, to say that our partnerships with the Family Justice Center are an essential part of our work with domestic violence survivors. It's not unusual on any day to see domestic violence counselors and aides from the DA's office walking victims who are in the criminal justice system and in our offices across the street or over the third floor over here to the Family Justice Center. And it's equally not unusual on any day to see Family Justice Center staff walking folks who've come to the family court for support over to our office where they can meet with our staff in the criminal justice system. And I think that that partnership that we have together, where we work together to try to make sure that victims get the advocacy that they need and that they deserve, the care, the wraparound services that come from the DA's office and our staff and all of the service providers that are affiliated with the Family Justice Center. We fight every day for domestic violence victims and survivors. Robbie's always there to push us if we're ever not doing enough, but it's work that we're proud to do and that we're committed to do. So today I say thanks for having me here. Congratulations to the Family Justice Center, and thanks again to OVS for the wisdom and the generosity to support such a terrific program.
Our next speaker will be Elizabeth Cronin, who is the director of the New York State OVS program. Now, when Fred pointed out that they had a 20-year past experience, what he didn't point out is that Elizabeth got her law degree when she was 19. So she's 39 years old. You can see I was paying attention to politician school. The reality is that Elizabeth has responsibilities statewide. The New York City experience, all of the different counties of various sizes, those that are bigger than us, those that are smaller than us. But she knows Westchester, and that was an essential part of this grant working. Because, you know, the general perception of Westchester is we're, universally wealthy, and the problems that happen in other places don't happen in Westchester. Those of us who live here know that we have a more diverse population in a host of different ways, and the problems in society that exist everywhere exist in Westchester as well, and that the resources that OVS is granting us will be well used. So with that, Elizabeth Cronin, Director of New York State OVS.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is great to be home, and it's great to be here on behalf of Governor Cuomo to talk about the Family Justice Center. And thank you, County Executive Latimer and Judge Davidson, for inviting me to speak about this amazing program and the ability of my agency to fund programs like this. As Fred indicated, that we were colleagues in the Special Prosecutions Division, and this issue is near and dear to my heart, and I have stayed in this work because of what I learned here in Westchester County when I was an assistant DA. We did not have, and I think it's fair to say, would have loved to have had the kinds of services that are now being offered to domestic violence, sexual assault, and other victims in Westchester County. When we were prosecuting cases, we used to say that we essentially were lawyers, psychologists, teachers, counselors, because a lot of the work that we are now seeing being done by other agencies were having to be done by us. This collaboration is really amazing, and the county should be so proud of the work that you've done in putting together a group of agencies, a group of organizations that can do this work together in what I look at as a true collaboration. The list of partners in this, it's in the press release, is really a who's who of those organizations in this county who touch the lives of victims of interpersonal violence, of sexual assault, of domestic violence. And without all of those partners getting together to address this issue collectively, you would not have the coordinated response and the services available to the victims who need them most. One of the things that Fred and I had talked about a while ago was through funding from the Office of Victim Services, they were able to hire a trauma-trained counselor to help victims in the Special Prosecutions Division. That is an amazing thing to see. We didn't know anything about trauma when I was prosecuting cases. We knew that people were hurt by their victimization, but we did not understand the ramifications and the repercussions that people have as a result of being victimized. And we certainly did not understand the secondary trauma and the vicarious trauma that responders doing this work will suffer. And so having the ability and having the foresight and the creative thought process to put together programs like the Family Justice Center to hire people who are trauma trained has just pushed this field forward in the right direction. Previous to, I guess, October 1st, Westchester had a significant amount of funding from my agency, but because of their forward thinking, they have applied for and successfully received funding that has doubled for Westchester County. It's a significant amount of funding that will be available for all kinds of crime victims in this county. You have also doubled the number of programs that are available for victims. And I think what we're learning in the field of victim services is that people don't cleanly fit within particular silos of victimization, and often victims are poly victims. So you might have, for example, an elder abuse victims who suffer from financial abuse, from domestic violence, and even sexual assault. And we need to have all the services available that can respond to those kinds of victimizations. And you are going to have that response here in Westchester County. I am thrilled to be able to offer this kind of funding through the Office of Victim Services, but I am particularly proud to live in Westchester County and to know that there are so many agencies and organizations under County Executive Latimer's leadership that understand what victimization looks like and how to provide the support and resources for victims in this county. And so it's reassuring to me as a citizen here that this county is really innovative and creative and forward-thinking about addressing victim services. So thank you for having me.
Before I call up Michelle Walker, who's Director of FJC, I want to recognize that we have a number of senior members of our county team with us here. Our County Attorney John Nona has joined us. Just raise your hand so you can be recognized. The Commissioner Sheriff of our Department of Public Safety, Tom Gleason, is here. The Commissioner of our Probation Department, Rocco Posey, is with us. We have Evan Latania, who heads our Office for Disabilities and Services. Our first Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Social Services, John Beefus, is with us. We have our Deputy Director of Operations, Emily Saltzman, is here. And of course, our omnipresent Director of Communications, Catherine Chaffee, who stays in such good touch with us on all of these different things. There are other individuals here as well. We're all here to show the importance of what this means, that there are so many individuals involved in so many different components of county government that are part and standing behind this initiative. Michelle Walker is the next speaker. She is our Director of the Family Justice Center, and she's the person on the ground. She sees exactly who walks through the front door, how they're handled, and how this program can benefit them and how it fits into the larger system. So, Michelle, please.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. I have worked with survivors for over 20 years, and it is very important to understand what our domestic violence clients go through when they come into the door of the court system. I want to thank our partners today who are here with me today. I'm very grateful. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we're doing here on a daily basis. I also would like to thank my dedicated advocates from Hope Store, My Sister's Place, Westcop, and Victims Assistance Services. As the county exec said today, that domestic violence, it's in our community, all over our community, and it does not discriminate. So we take this very seriously at the Family Justice Center. As the partners and myself and the advocates, we work daily to make sure that the services are coordinated, to make sure that the clients are heard, and make sure that they have a safe place at the Family Justice Center. I am honored to be here today with my colleagues, with the county exec, and with our partners. We're working very hard to make sure that when our clients come here, we treat them with respect, and we make sure that the services are offered to them and they have options. We can't do this work without thanking the family court system, without thanking the probation department, working with law enforcement and the district attorney's office. We have to work with them. It's important that we work with them so that we can hold the offenders accountable. On a day-to-day basis, our clients come in, they have a lot of issues, they have a lot of stresses that they're worried about and that they're concerned, and our advocates, with compassion, work on a daily basis to make sure that those needs are met with them, sometimes very challenging. So we're here today to say thank you all for being here, to let our clients know that we are here for them, to let the community know that we're here working and we take domestic violence seriously in our community. I have to thank the Office of Victim Services. Without them, we would not be able to reopen the Family Justice Center, which is a resource of value within our community. Our clients come in, and the Family Justice Center is a place for them to lay their words and walk out with hope. So we thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you for your support.
And our final speaker is Carla Horton, who has been on the front lines of dealing with domestic violence victims for a long time. She is head of Hope's Door, executive director, and she's seen the real-world experiences of what we're speaking of. So, Carla, perhaps you'll share your thoughts.
I love jigsaw puzzles. I love putting all the pieces together. I like when the storm is raging outside my windows during the latest hurricane, getting everything to fit together. What a perfect metaphor for the Family Justice Center. Where do you begin? Which piece could we do without? Every last piece needs to fit. All the pieces are here. You've heard from all of them. We haven't heard from a survivor, so let me try to share with you just a little bit about what the people we serve every day who walk through the doors here or at Hope's Door or at VAS or at the Pace Women's Justice Center, my sister's place. What are the stories that they tell us? So imagine going to bed every night afraid of what would happen to you or the children during the night. Imagine waking up in the morning fearing what this day would bring. Imagine walking on eggshells, never sure of what little bitty, itty-bitty thing would set him off this time. Always trying to do what he wants, never what you want. Never being able to choose for yourself. And most horrible, never, ever being able to say no, or not now, or please, honey, not today. Not today. Could we have one day without all the things that are going on? Imagine leaving him time after time and then going back because actually things didn't get worse. They got worse after you left. They didn't get better. Now imagine you have a place to go. You've heard it's a place of safety. You heard that you'd be listened to. And that's our Family Justice Center, where Hope's Door and our many wonderful partners provide hope, safety, and support every day. Now, over the last 39 years, Hope's Door has helped thousands of victims make their personal journey from victim to survivor. We have sheltered newborns to victims in their 80s and everything in between, because as you've heard, survivors come from all walks of life, every demographic group. I am reminded of a Tuesday that's so etched in my memory. I started that day speaking with a survivor who had just left our Spanish language support group. And I know, let's call her Rosa. I know Rosa would have been thrilled to have a job for $10 an hour, no benefits, and off the books. At the end of the day, I worked with a victim from one of our more privileged communities. Her husband's adjusted gross income, his income, not her money. He reported an adjusted gross income of $8,325,700 and, oh, let's count every penny, $11. Both of those women asked Hope's Door and got grocery cards from ShopRite to help put food on the table. These are the stories and all the others that go with it. So we know domestic violence is an insidious crime, and even when it doesn't rise to the level of a criminal act, can be enormously devastating, and as our partner back here in Funder said, trauma-provoking for victims, their children, their families, their employers, because domestic violence doesn't just stay at home. It goes to work, it goes to school, it's just everywhere human beings are. So we have a jigsaw puzzle of partners. Thanks to all of them. We thank especially the Westchester County Office for Women that really pulled this all together with the help of folks like you and George, your leadership. And we were one of those that got a big fat increase in our funding from the Office of Victim Services. So we are not above singling you out for your generosity, because all the lives that we touch every day between victim services and almost 10,000 youth in our prevention program. All of this is what we need to work on, putting all the jigsaw puzzle pieces together, changing the very fabric of our society, the very social norms that allow abuse to flourish, to actually allow for a thinking that says, well, somebody has to wear the pants in the family. Somebody has to be the one. No, what about what we promote? We need to move from relationships that are based on power and control to ones that are based on equality, respect, and trust. And speaking of that, I have such respect and trust in all my partners and all the people here today. And lastly, I will single out the taxpayers and the other folks who support all the work that we do. Your money, your support helps people like us and those at the Family Justice Center save lives every day. We could not be more grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Going to open it up to questions from the media, and then after we handle any questions as a group, we'll see who is best able to answer that. Then you're welcome to do any interviews with anybody here one-on-one. So since we have a few folks here from the media, we'll find out if that one person has something they'd like to ask us.
How much money is this funding?
Robbie, I'm going to ask you to yeah, the specifics.
With Darlene.
Robbie, Elizabeth,
Darlene.
there's about 80 of us up here, so one of us must know the exact numbers here that we're dealing with.
know, so.
Yeah, initially it was funded for $1 million.
I think we want you on microphone.
Oh, on mic.
Take your voice up.
Just short of $1 million. Overall, over the next 3 years, Westchester County is going to be getting $22 million, which is more than double the amount of funding that the county got from my agency over the last 5 years. We've also increased the number of programs to twice the number of programs that we were previously funding. I also wanted to mention that in addition to the grants that were recently sent out, we have funded case managers for programs and civil legal attorneys because we have found that so many crime victims suffer a myriad of other civil legal needs, whether it's from family court or housing court or all different kinds of issues that come up as a result of the victimization. We are also funding attorneys in many of the programs that are involved with this initiative.
So the $22 million is for all programs in Westchester County. I just looked at Michelle and said, what's your budget? You know, we used to spend between $300,000 and $500,000 a year when the money flowed through our office. Now the individual organizations applied for funding separately, so it's a little more difficult to figure out exactly what the Family Justice Center's operating budget is for a year. The $22 million that Elizabeth is talking about funds how many programs?
I think there's 16, so it's places like Hope's Door, My Sister's Place, Empire Justice Center, Pace Women's Justice Center, the District Attorney's Office got funding from us. So there's many organizations and agencies throughout the county that are receiving funding from our agency.
For all crime victim programs.
Well, I can speak let me speak specifically about just what was provided to Hope's Door in our last fiscal year. Office of Victim Services funding for our shelter community services work was about $636,000. It's now just short of $870,000. On top of that, we got a 5-year grant award of $1.9 million from the New York State Office of Victim Services that helped us launch the Hope's Door Legal Center to provide help with everything from, it could be orders of protection, child custody support, visitation, matrimonial actions, and immigration work. So, to be specific.
Any other questions? We don't need
Yeah,
to over-answer
OBS.
that one question.
Okay.
Let's see if there's any other questions besides the financial one.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up?
Was the grant received today, or will it be,
I assume this is going to spread out over a period of time. Anyone want to talk about the time frame of the grant?
It starts your 3 years, right?
Yeah, they're 3-year grants. The award letters went out a couple of months ago, and we have been working with the individual programs throughout the entire state of New York. This was the largest grant that we have ever awarded. It was $282 million over 3 years. So this means that victim services throughout the entire state of New York are going to be covered with this funding. So their funding starts October the 1st
Right.
and will run for a 3-year cycle.
Very good. If there's no other general questions, any of these folks would be happy to do a one-on-one interview, and we appreciate you coming, and we want to thank all of our guests who are here today, each of whom has, as Carla so aptly put it, a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. It's when we put it all together that we have an accomplishment. So thank you to Elizabeth and the New York State Office of Victim Services and all the other component pieces that are here today. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all very much.